Inputs and outputs. There's a principle of input dictating output. And while it seems simple, and I guess in theory it is, it's something that we all have to understand and address if we want to truly accomplish our goals. But what you put in directly affects what comes out. It's sort of the second law of thermodynamics, but applied to life. But there is a strong relationship between the work, which is your input, and the results, which is your output. So you have to understand, as we're going through this process, you want to align your goals with the effort that you need to do to get there, right? Goals don't just happen. So that alignment's got to be, is really crucial. And in conjunction with that, you've got to have real clarity in what you want to accomplish. Your goals, your intentions have to be crystal clear.
Your time your goals so hard, but I'm not doing it results. I want to look into the review if you want to know that of the outputs. Yeah, the design about inputs is really that simple, which will show you how to get liquid.
You've all had friends, or maybe you've been through it, or I've been through it, Serena's been through it, where you kind of have a goal and it's a little vague. Well, when that goal is vague, it's almost impossible to put in the right inputs to accomplish that goal, because a goal that's not clear, it's not really a goal, it's just something you think about. So that's why it's so important to be clear with your goals and your intentions. When you're doing that, you've got to define specifically what you want to accomplish. And also, and just as important, if not more, is why you want to accomplish it. When you've got a strong why behind that goal, then you're more likely to really commit to doing it, which means putting in the right input to accomplish that output, which is your goal. But that helps you identify the pathway for goal achievement. And it also helps you avoid wasting effort, because now you're focused and you're intentional about what you do. Then you have to align goals with reality. And this is really important as well. But you got to be honest about limitations and effort, right? And not that we're not saying you can't accomplish amazing things, but you do have to align it with reality. Certain things just aren't realistic. And the quicker we come to that reality, the quicker we're going to be on track to accomplish what is possible and what is going to change our lives and make us better and give us satisfaction and have a positive impact on others and the world in general. So really, as you're going through it, be honest about your limitations, because they will be there, right? You want to assess what you're willing to commit to achieve success, right? Sometimes, I've been there where every year I do a big planner for the year and I set my goals and all those, and I do a pretty good job. But there are moments where all of a sudden I'm through the first quarter of the year and I'm looking at that, I'm like, I have not taken one step towards that goal. And then I realized, that goal really wasn't important to me. Wasn't that clear, wasn't important, it felt good at the time, but it really didn't mean anything. So you got to figure out what you're really willing to commit to and put the effort into, and then balance the desired outcomes with the effort required. Because again, every output requires input, and that input is effort, and the output are your goals. So again, you want to avoid unrealistic expectations. Make sure that you're always evolving your work and your approach to accomplishing your goals, and then be willing to adapt the input when you're falling short and you're not getting the output you're looking for. A lot of us, we get into a system and a regimen and we have this plan and we're committed to it, and it's not getting the output we're looking for, which means you have to stop and adjust the inputs. But sometimes we just stick with the same old inputs and we don't get where we want to go. When you're not getting where you need to go and it's not working out, you've got to adjust those. And that goes with just recognizing that every strategy, even the best of strategies, requires flexibility, right? We've got to be able to change on the fly and adjust so that we're always moving forward, that we're always chipping away. And then, of course, and this is Serena's favorite topic, but mindset, right? You've got to continuously update that mindset, rewrite that mindset to make sure that you're matching the changing circumstances. The role of evolution in success. We've got to evolve. And part of evolving is growth. And growth means learning new skills. It means improving our knowledge base. It makes us go out of our comfort zone to develop a skill set in order to make sure that we're always chipping away and moving towards our goals. Part of that's the, adapting to challenges, right? What was interesting is the first time I was thinking about speaking, I wasn't a speaker. And there were all sorts of challenges. All of a sudden you had to get up in front of a group of people. You had to know your material. You had to learn to create slide decks. These were all challenges. And I didn't have the skill set at the time, but it evolved and I learned and I put the time into growing. And now I know how to put a deck together so it's visually, appealing, and it has the right content and it supports my keynote speeches. I learned by reading and researching and watching other great speakers, how to speak properly to convey a message and body language and tone and all of those important things that a speaker needs to do. But the bottom line is whatever you're trying to accomplish, there's a good chance you don't have all the skills and knowledge to get there now. So you have to evolve if you want to be successful. Now, how do you do that? Well, deal with the initial struggles, right? Accept it. Because, when I first sat down at the computer and I started to work in the Keynote program on Mac, I was lost and it was frustrating. And there were moments I wanted to throw my computer out the window. But I was like, if I just stick to it and I learn and I watch some YouTube videos on how to design better slides, I will get there. And eventually I did get there. So with all of this adaptability and learning new skills, know it'll be challenging, but it's worth it. And just be patient, and then you will become proficient. Then you want to also leverage past experiences for growth. Where people often fall short is not learning from past experiences. We've all had people in our lives or people we've worked with where you see them make the same mistake over and over and they never grow, they never adapt, right? And you're like, man, if you just learn from your mistakes, even though it might not be the specific situation happening again, you know how to adapt and you know how to grow. So leveraging past experience for growth is very powerful. Recognizing when work affects others, right? And taking responsibility for that, because we're never in a silo, we're working with other people. So we have to understand that as well. And then expanding your effort to meet larger demands and opportunities. The more you grow, the bigger the goals, the more effort and strategy it's going to take. So you got to expand that effort and be willing to do so and stay motivated. And then again, when there are lags in results, and there always will be, right? You've got to develop resilience. Resilience is such a crucial trait for successful people, because nothing is ever a smooth route. Knowing Serena, he tells you all the time, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be obstacles. As a matter of fact, they're part of the journey. And if you don't have those, you're probably not growing, but they're still difficult, right? You still have to deal with them. And sometimes they make us feel down and they decrease our motivation. So developing that resilience is what's going to help us deal with those situations. Prevention as a strategic input. Yes, prevention as a strategic input. We want a certain output, we've got to understand the inputs, and sometimes it's prevention, right? There's a lot of times people don't understand the benefits of preventative thinking, right? So thinking through scenarios before a problem arises, upstream problem solving, rather than just being reactive, right? I will tell you a lot of times in my career, especially early on, I thought I was the best reactive person, because when something happened, I responded quickly and I dealt with it and all that, and that was good. But then I got to a stage where I want to be proactive. What can I do to prevent the problem from ever happening? Great book by the Heath brothers called Upstream talks all about upstream problem solving. So instead of just handling it in the moment, what can we do prior to make sure it just doesn't happen? As an example, if I want to take better care of my health and I want to try to exercise every single day, what can I do preventatively, or what can I do proactively to set me up for success? Well, what I can do is I can set out all my gym stuff and clothes and whatever I need for the workout the night before, so it's already there. And then I can set an alarm and I can choose a gym that's really close to my house, because the more convenient it is, the more likely you are to use it. Or maybe I get in-home equipment. What can I do to make these things easier to then not have the problem where it's just me waking up going, I don't feel like going today, and then there's the battle. What can I do to set myself up for success? So, learning to manage your energy effectively through forward planning. Right? We're thinking ahead. How can we set ourselves up for success? Because too many people rely on discipline and willpower, and those are diminishing resources, but we can prevent certain challenges from arising by setting us up for success. Then we're going to increase the odds of accomplishing what we want to accomplish. So this, application applies to all aspects of life, by the way, not just business, right? Like I used a health analogy, relationships, anything, it really helps, right? So with a relationship, rather than dealing with disagreements or issues or crucial conversations in the moment, what can we do ahead of time? Well, we can set boundaries and we can set expectations early, and then we're not dealing with problems in the moment because we've already set those up. Again, with work, it's preparing for challenges without overthinking potential failures, right? Where can this go wrong? Where can this go wrong? No, we're not going to overthink it. We're just going to be as prepared as possible, because that's what's going to help us use prevention as a strategic input. Striking the balance between preparation and action. We've all heard paralysis by analysis, and we've all been there, right? Sometimes we never end up taking action because we're just preparing, researching. We never think we're ready. We never think we're good enough. We never think we should just go for it and do it, right? But the bottom line is, you got to avoid over preparation, because then you'll never take action. So we've got to find that right balance. So recognizing when this planning becomes too much, right? What do they say? Action or imperfect action is better than no action, right? So knowing that there'll be challenges, knowing that we need to be resilient and adapt, sometimes it's better to just take action. Now, Serena would never recommend that you do it recklessly or thoughtlessly, but what we're saying is sometimes, we all our effort goes into that planning piece and then we don't ever take action. So we want to take informed, decisive steps as we move forward. But again, sometimes you just got to pull the trigger. And if you fall a little short, you readjust. It's okay. You learn from it. It's growth mindset, right? But again, sometimes it's so easy to just get in the preparation phase, overthink, overprepare, and then never actually take action. So again, we've got to do that. And even in that, maybe we don't take big jumps, we chip away. We take small steps, low risk, small steps. So if they are wrong and they need adjusted, we still took action, we can learn from it and we can fix it. It's not like we've committed to this whole thing and it's too hard to turn back or too hard to course correct, right? But again, balancing the awareness and momentum, that'll help sustain growth. But ultimately, we do have to be prepared. We have to learn, we have to grow, we have to develop. But you've got to figure out how to balance that with taking action, because that can override and limit action taking. We also don't want to not prepare at all and just take action and things become reckless, right? But striking that right balance is key to your success.